Now, while property sales remain low as homeowners are grappling with high interest rates, the rental market locally is booming. Let's look at landlord and tenant insurance, including some common misconceptions. To clarify all of that, I'm joined by Siyakha Masiye, who's a Miway spokesperson. A very good afternoon to you, Siyakha. Thank you for your time. With this kind of space and atmosphere that homeowners and people who are renting property are grappling with, what insurance cover should landlords have in place to protect themselves financially with the peak in those who are now opting for rentals?
Thank you, Masa, for the opportunity. So landlords need to take what we call home insurance. This is where you cover the actual structure of the building, because it's in your interest as a landlord. If, for example, God forbid, there's a fire or there are floods, like we've seen in the past year, we've had a lot of floods in the KZN and in the Western Cape, there are a lot of fires. You would want your property to be protected. So I'd suggest for the landlord to take a home insurance. And
what insurance cover should tenants have in place for their financial protection?
Yeah, so usually I would suggest to a tenant to really focus more on their home contents. Here I'm talking about a television, your sofas, your fridge, and all those things, because that's what's more immediate for you. But it is possible for a tenant to actually also take home insurance, because obviously they've got an insurable interest. What I mean by that is that if for example, there is a flood, or is a storm and the roof is open, you would want that to be solved as quickly as possible. But most of these lease agreements actually entail that. So the landlord would actually have that insurance. Yeah. But I would suggest mainly they should actually focus on the home contents.
When it comes to risk responsibilities, what are the misconceptions looking at landlords and tenants?
I think the misconception, particularly with tenants, is that they tend to think that everything that has to do with the house is the landlord's, responsibility.
Yeah.
And like I just said earlier, the home contents are really your responsibility, because you have a direct interest on those home contents. And the other way around is that it's impossible for a tenant. That's the misconception that's there. That it's impossible for a tenant to insure a house that doesn't belong to them. Theoretically, it does. We've seen that in practice. It's mostly that the homeowner will, or the landlord would insure that. But the misconception, particularly, is that the tenants think that everything that is inside the house should be the landlord's responsibility, which is not true.
Yeah, and insurers like yourself, Siyakha, how do you assist in debunking some of these misconceptions?
Yeah, so we've always tried to water down. I think it's one of the ways we've tried to be unique. We've tried to, at sales stage or when you take up a policy, to try and use as simple language as possible, so that it really the insured understands what we're talking about. Because in the past, I think a lot of jargon is sometimes thrown at clients, and they don't understand, and sometimes they sign up to certain things that they don't understand, and when it comes to claim stage, then we find no, there's actually no meeting of the minds. So what we've tried is to water it down as much as possible, particularly at claim stage, and we try and every opportunity we get to explain as much as possible.
And what about understanding insurance distinctions? I mean, between living in a standalone home as opposed to living in a complex or an estate. What are the big differences there when it comes to insurance and understanding the kind of policy that one needs to take?
Yeah. Look, with an estate, the complexities that come is that there's obviously the body corporates. That the body corporate might also have their own insurance, which is why, if I can go back to my first point, that every time you take up a lease agreement, make sure you go through it. I know it's a tedious process, but make sure you go through it and check if there is an insurance clause in there, because you might find yourself now double insuring and you pay insurance for nothing. Or you might find that they actually don't have. It's unlike with most standalone, you're speaking to an individual, you can almost get a sense of what's in place. But when it comes to these body corporates, it's a bit more complex. So you need to actually speak to whoever is the estate agent, and actually don't be shy. Be upfront and tell them, I don't know how this works. Please explain to me, do you have a clause that actually deals with insurance?
Very well. Thank you so much for that breakdown. Siyakha Masiye Miway Spokesperson speaking there as he gives us a sense of how to navigate South Africa's rental boom.